So it says in the program that Reverend Stephen's doing the message today. Just to be clear, I'm not Reverend Stephen if this is your first time. But he's the master of storytelling. I counted 14 stories last week. I count each time. So I'm not gonna do 14, but I'm gonna get close. And little bonus, few tangents. I'll throw in a couple tangents. So, all right, non-attachment. The secret to manifestation and freedom. I couldn't fit the manifestation part on there, just too long, so I went with freedom. So, first slide. If I turn this on, it might work. So the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama said, a few years ago, non-attachment is the philosophy of my life. It is the hallmark of Buddhism. Our teaching includes just about everything, and yet every teaching has a particular emphasis. So the emphasis of our teaching, I would say most profoundly, is on intentionality. What do we want in life? Recognizing that we have the power to create what we want through our consciousness, through how we think, right? And as I say in The Magic of the Soul, I like to quote myself a lot. The most powerful consciousness for manifestation is A, having clear intention, at the same time, non-attachment to how, when, or even if it occurs. And I feel that these are equally important. Because here's the thing, if I'm attached to a particular result, then there's going to be some kind of fear that what I want to happen won't happen, what I don't want to happen will happen. And so that fear is actually putting negative energy into what I don't want. Make sense? So, in fact, what's the third step of spiritual mind treatment? Little quiz here. Realization, yeah. He gets an A. By the way, you're pretty good at that, this practitioner stuff, the meditation and stuff that you don't usually do, yeah. And as long as we're talking about this, man, I want to say, I know virtually, most of the ministers in our movement, and I've seen most of them speak. And there's not a minister, not a speaker I'd rather sit in front of on a Sunday morning and hear speak. He's a master. So, where was I? Tangent. So, I'll just go to the next. Realization. So that's the intentionality part. And that's usually the longest part of a spiritual mind treatment. And then there's this little tiny thing at the end that says, I release. That's the non-attachment. And it's really interesting because it's very, I believe spiritual mind treatment, when it's done properly, and I think practitioners will agree with me in this, is that it's not about creating something in the world of form, although that is the answer on the practitioner test, by the way, is when is a demonstration complete, is when it shows up in the world of form. Some wording like that. But really, I think the essence of the teaching is when I get it inside, right? So it's really treating for consciousness. And yet, it's very seductive, even in spiritual mind treatment. Even when someone comes to me for spiritual mind treatment and wants to improve their health or their finance or whatever, it's the challenge for the practitioner to not get caught up in that having to show up in the world of form. If my client walks away with a sense of, oh, I feel prosperous, then that's what it's about, because it's an inside-out game. So if we're looking for the results to show up in the world of form, then what we're saying, actually I'll give you a little quote from Robert Scheinfeld, Busting Loose from the Money Game. He says, this is just my favorite quote in the book. He says, When we get to the place in consciousness where we realize it's no better to have $1 million than it is to owe $1 million, then we'll have the consciousness to create whatever we want with a snap of our fingers. Can you feel your way into that? It's not logical, right? And yet, can you feel the truth in that? Because there's where the ultimate peace is. As he explains it, and really this is Buddhism just put in modern day terms, is if I'm saying this situation in the world of form is better than this situation in the world of form, I'm saying that the world of form has power over my inner experience. And therefore, I don't have power. But if I'm saying it doesn't matter what's happening in the world of form, if I'm at peace inside, if I am feeling joy inside, if I am feeling abundance inside, if I am feeling healthy inside, which is the essence of spiritual mind treatment, the world of form takes care of itself. It's an inside-out game. If I'm looking for the appearance changing, sometimes I call it a one eye open meditation or spiritual mind treatment, when I'm affirming that I have absolute abundance. It's an abundant world. I have more than I need. And yet one eye is open, kind of fluttering, looking at my bank account to see if the numbers have gone up at all, right? Not trusting, because that's lack of trust, right? So when I speak my word and then I release it, it's done. There's no need to think about it anymore. There's no reason to come back to any worry. And in fact, the only way to peace, I have found, is through non-attachment. And so Thich Nhat Hanh says, letting go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness. If in our heart we still cling to anything, anger, anxiety, possessions, we cannot be free. It's the only way to ultimate freedom. Because again, when I'm using the world of form as my litmus test for how I feel inside, then the world of form is informing my inner experience. But when I switch it around and recognize the only thing that's important, and let's get this in this moment. You know, Reverend Steve said in the opening, is so apropos in the opening treatment, in the reading, present in this moment. That's what I have found, is the more I give up attachment to what's going on out in the world, what might happen in the future, what happened in the past, the more present I am in the moment. I noticed this when I was just talking, story number one, I was just talking to a friend the other day, and he was kind of wrapped up in some difficulty in his life. And I just noticed how present I was for him, because I was not thinking about anything other than where I am right now. And so when it turns around and I just get that it's all about how I feel in this moment, then my inner experience informs the world of form. And that's how simple it is. So this is what it looks like when we're attached. So two things happen. One is, you see there's this person with all these worries about finance, about the world situation, about relationship, whatever it is. So number one, he's putting negativity into each one of these concerns or attachments. And number two, all of his power has been drained, because all of his power is out in each one of those worries or attachments. So this is what it looks like when we're non-attached. Oh no, actually that's me down at Venice Beach on the boardwalk, playing harmonica with the bands out there. This is how it looks when we're non-attached. Our aura, our energy field is intact. So now we have the power to create whatever we want easily and effortlessly. This is my experience as I move down this path of practicing non-attachment more and more, is manifestation becomes easier and easier. My favorite affirmation that has evolved out of this practice is, wouldn't it be fun if? You feel the lightness in that, right? So I'm setting attachment, I'm creating an image of what I want, and at the same time, there's no attachment. It'll be fun if it does not manifest. I used this about a year ago, or maybe a couple years ago now. I was touring on the East Coast, and I was, well, on the East Coast in Canada, and where I'm a rock star, by the way. Some people might say. And I, from the pulpit, said, wouldn't it be fun if 35 people showed up for the workshop today? And I said that in 3 different locations, and each time, guess how many people showed up in the workshop? In fact, in Calgary, they were counting as people were coming through the door, and when it got to 35, everyone started clapping, and that was it. Last person came in. I stopped saying that because I didn't want to limit it at 35 anymore, right? So wouldn't it be fun if whatever? Because if it's one person, it's going to be fun. If it's 50 people, it's going to be fun. I'm going to be having a great time no matter how many people show up for the workshop today, with everyone who does show up. So let me mention about meditation as part of this practice of non-attachment. In fact, I'm going to read, before I do that, maybe I'll tell you something about this book, Meditation. You know, I was once lecturing, and I remember it from this platform. I love this place, by the way. I just came off of a tour in Canada, did 8 different locations, but there's nothing like speaking here with my family. Love you guys. And so I had finished a manuscript called The Purpose Guide. I'd been writing for about 15 years, and I was ready to submit it to a publisher, and I said, let me back up a little bit. So I was speaking from this stage probably, 17, 18 years ago, and I was saying, I've been really good at manifestation all my life, but in the most cases, it's taken a lot of work. In fact, in my 20s, I was so believing that life was a struggle that there was attachment to everything. So this has been a lifelong practice for me. And I remember saying that, I've been pretty good at manifestation, but the kind of manifestation I want to get to is, and I said these words, you write a book, you go into a Starbucks, and there's a publisher there that says, hey, I want to publish your book. That it's that easy, right? And so that kind of happened. So I finished this manuscript. I said, I want a major publisher to publish this book, but I don't want to go looking for them. I want them to find me. A week later, I get a messenger message from Joel Fotinos, who's a member who's a minister in our movement. He used to work for Penguin Putnam. He now works for St. Martin's Press, the 5th largest publisher in the world. And he says, I see you're doing a workshop on meditation in New Jersey at my center, the center I'm a staff minister at. I just moved you to the top of my list to publish this book or to write this book. Do you want to do it? And I said, yes, of course. And he said, well, we only offer like a $5,000 advance on books like these. So I had to pretend like that was enough, right? I've never gotten any kind of advance before, so I'll accept it this time. Ended up being 6,000. It just changed overnight. And then when I was reading the contract, by the way, it said, by the way, any future writing projects, manuscripts, we have first right of refusal for. So I just submitted the Purpose Guide. So it took a little longer, but I got to write this amazing book. I think it's amazing, on meditation. And so there is a little piece in here about non-attachment. How does meditation contribute to non-attachment? When we go deep into the meditative state, we can encounter the realm of non-duality. With regular meditation, this state becomes as real or even more real than the realm of duality or the physical plane. As the mystics have described through the ages and is now corroborated by quantum physics, what we experience in the physical plane is an illusion based on our physical sense perception. a shadowy reflection of a truer reality that we can only glimpse in moments of deep meditation or mystical revelation. And so the more that meditation is the most powerful practice I have found to give up attachment. So, and this tour that I just did in Canada, every time I go out and speak on an extended tour, I notice I am less attached to outcome. And so this time, I have a lot of friends in Canada because I go there every year. And this time it was like, I don't even have a care at all about the workshops or the book sales. I just want to connect with friends. Everything else is just icing on an already perfect cake. And guess what? More people showed up for the workshops than ever before. More people bought books. I sold out of the books after the first 3 engagements. This is how life just becomes so synchronistic and so easy when we're in that place of non-attachment. Let's see. Osho said non-attachment is the secret of finding yourself. Then awareness can turn inwards because you don't have anything outside to catch hold of it. It is free, and in this freedom, you can know your self-nature. Let's take a deep breath into that experience. In fact, that just gave me a new idea. Close your eyes for a moment. Think about something in your life that you may have attachment to, something you really want to happen or something you really don't want to happen. What would it be like in this moment if you simply give up the attachment and affirm that whatever you want to happen, wouldn't it be fun if? And affirm that it'll be fun no matter what. I will be in freedom and joy no matter what. Take a deep breath, another deep breath in, and just feel, just sink into the feeling of joy and freedom and pure love of spirit right here and right now. When you're ready, open your eyes, because you are enlightened in this moment. If you are feeling those feelings right now, there is only this moment until we go back to attachments, right? Byron Katie says, I don't argue with reality because I'm a spiritual person. I don't argue with reality because it hurts, right? And I would add, I never win that argument, not even once. Anyone ever win that argument? See? So, am I going to tell this story? I think I'll say this first. I'm going to read a little. I read this as a reading once when I was practitioner of the day, and I heard a lot of oohs and sighs in the audience. So, even physical pain is imagined when you're asleep. Does your body hurt? When you're hurting and the phone rings and it's the call you've been longing for, and you're mentally focused on the conversation, there's no pain. If your thinking changes, the pain changes. You know, what has come to me, the phrasing that I live my life by now is resist nothing, embrace everything. And this class that we're going to be doing on Byron Katie, A Mind at Home with Itself, she is the absolute master at embracing what is. And it has inspired me to go deeper into this experience of not only non-attachment. Another way of phrasing it is simply striving to, or giving up the striving at some point, and seeing the beauty in everything. Recognizing that everything is always for us. And here's what happens to pain when we give up attachment. I once stuck my hand too far into the mouth of a champion juicer. I heard the sound of crunching. There's the oohs and ahs. And when I pulled my hand out, it was streaming with blood. The blood was bright red. I had never seen anything so beautiful. Roxanne, who's her daughter, who was standing beside me, was horrified, just like you just were. She had to be horrified because her mind was focused on past and future, on images of my hand in the juicer and the sound that was already gone, and the pain she projected onto me in a future where she had a mother who was missing some fingers. But in reality, the whole experience was beautiful. The blood on the fingertips was healthy and lovely and free. I didn't project a past or a future, so I couldn't feel any pain. There was nothing to obscure the radiant moment. The mangled fingers were the Buddha. The blood was the Buddha. The beloved, horrified daughter was the Buddha too. I waited for pain to happen, and I was open to the illusion that would create pain, but as love would have it, don't you love that phrase? As love would have it, there was none. A couple fingernails were gone, and one fingertip was a bit chewed up. We got the peroxide and gauze and wrapped the fingers, but there was no need to take care of me because there was nothing to take care of. The fingers, the blood, the juicer, the daughter, the observer, they were all characteristics of the Buddha. Now that's an ideal, right? I'm not quite there yet. I have some attachments in my life, right? I mean, I love my home. There's some attachment there. If it were to burn down tomorrow and all the fires that are going on, I would have some sadness there, and I would embrace the sadness. And within, I'm going to predict a couple days, I would be at peace about it. I'd recognize that we will have a new home soon, and it will be even better. This lady right here, I'm way attached to. I was thinking about it this morning, and I used to hate that line in, what's that? Jerry Maguire, that movie, right? You complete me. It just seems so codependent. But I gotta admit, you had me at hello, right? You complete me. I mean, if she were not in my life, half of me would be gone, right? And I don't know how long that would take to get to a place of peace. But I know that I would, and I know I would. Part of how I'd get there is I would be focused not only on the grieving process, because that's important as human beings, but also I would really focus on all the good times that we have had and be in gratitude for that. Because look, Byron Katie also says in this book, the physical body isn't going to make it for anyone. And that's good news. She doesn't say why. I will add the why, because this whole cycle of life is an evolution, a journey of increasing non-attachment. And if we do it well, if we get better and better at non-attachment, then when we approach the end can be a beautiful experience. In fact, every moment can be a beautiful experience to the degree that we give up attachment. In this class, I'm going to, we're really lucky because John Newell is going to be assisting, and he has for 10 years been doing the work, the Byron Katie work, so he's going to be helping to facilitate some of the work with people. And I just love your long hair, man. It is so cool. He heard that, good. So if, the class isn't for everyone. If you want to remain attached to things in your life, you're probably going to have a hard time with this class. But if you're at a place where you are willing to step into a deeper place of freedom and joy by giving up attachment and looking for the beauty in everything, come join us, because I haven't taught it yet before, but I have a very strong feeling this is going to be the most powerful, enlightening, and transformational class I've ever done. I'll say something about the, I guess we'll do this other, no, I'll do that slide later. So I'll just say something about the workshop today. So the workshop is bringing together the two things that I said at the beginning about intentionality and non-attachment, right? So manifesting the dream, how to manifest what we want through non-attachment, and wouldn't it be fun if? Clear intention, but lightness, Non-attachment. So we're going to do a process about how to keep our energy high and positive, even in moments of great challenge. And we're going to do some visioning about our most ideal life. And then we're going to do a really fun exercise that I've done in some of my workshops that is working with 2 other people. And I won't say anything else about it, just that it's fun, it's engaging, and lots of laughter. And you come away really empowered with your vision, whatever it might be. So, if my wish and prayer would be that everyone here could come to this workshop today, because I know how much fun we're going to have and how you're going to feel at the end of it. That's probably not possible, but if you don't have plans, come and join us. You will be glad you did. If you do have plans, change them. If you can't change them, sign my mailing list. Next time I'm doing it around, I don't do these workshops locally very much because I do them so much traveling, but so hope you can make it. So last slide, and then quick little story. So my favorite spiritual teacher, Swami Harbula Ananda, says this in The Magic of the Soul: true non-attachment is realizing that fundamentally we are attached to everything. We are one. It's a different reframing of attachment. If we're attached to something outside ourselves, that's an affirmation that we are separate. And our teaching is most about oneness, isn't it? And at the heart of oneness is love. We cannot be at peace and separate at the same time. We cannot be in love, and I don't mean romantically, I mean swimming, living, playing, working in love when we have attachments. So quick story. Do you have time for a joke too? No, it's getting, do we? All right, quick joke, then a quick story. So I've told this one before, but it fits so well. So 3 guys out for a game of golf. First guy steps up to the tee, and this guy's like really serious about his golf game. He's really been concentrating, working on it. So he gets up, he's concentrating on his perfect stroke. Oh, by the way, you've probably heard of this guy. His name is Moses. So Moses just lets it rip. It's flying out there way over the green, but it bounces before the trap, which is a big lake. So Moses just steps out and he raises up his club, and the waters part. And the ball rolls straight through onto the green about 20 feet from the cup. Second guy steps up, also pretty serious about his game, and so he's concentrating, and probably heard of this guy. His name is Jesus. Jesus finally lets it rip. It's going way out there. It's going farther than Moses' ball, but it's going to land on the lake. And so he steps out, he raises his hand. The ball just stops 6 inches above the surface of the water and hovers there. Jesus just calmly walks out upon the water, taps the ball under the green, about 10 feet from the cup. Third guy comes up, and he's the opposite of the first two. He's not taking it seriously at all. He's joking around, he's laughing, he's not even paying attention. He takes a one-handed swipe at the ball, and it slices way off over bounces off the roof of this caddy shack, over the fence onto the freeway. It's ricocheting between cars. It hits this semi. It comes back over the fence onto the roof, rolls down the roof to the rain gutter, down the rain gutter to the drain pipe, down the drain pipe, onto the fairway, down the fairway. It hits a rock. It bounces up, lands on a lily pad. A frog comes up, grabs it in his mouth, and just then an eagle swoops down and snatches up the frog. The frog screams out of fright. The ball drops out of his mouth, straight down into the cup. Moses turns to Jesus and says, "God, I hate playing with your dad." The person who shows up with the most joy and freedom and non-attachment to the results always gets the best results. Yes? All right, quick story. So my teacher, Vivian King, in spiritual psychology, I studied with her for 4 years. After the class ended, she moved to New Mexico. I heard from a friend that she was in Texas and was hit by a drunk driver. And I went to visit her and she was in a coma for 6 weeks, by the way. Her head was swollen the size of a basketball. In fact, I was wondering about a Halloween reference. She was called herself the Great Pumpkin. I went to visit her in Long Beach. She had moved her from Texas to Long Beach, and her head was normal now, but her face was very contorted. And she had stem cell damage, so she became a quadriplegic overnight. She lost the use of her voice, and they were deciding where to move her next. And she could have gone to Orange County or to San Fernando Valley, where I lived. And I said, hey, if she comes to San Fernando Valley, I'll be able to visit her and kind of help out with her physical therapy, etc. They didn't know where exactly I lived, but she ended up a block from where I lived. In her rehabilitation place. And so I got to go over there several times a week and do spiritual mind treatment with her and energy healing and her physical therapy. And it might sound like I'm doing a lot from her. I was the one who got the gift. All of her, she was a saint of a woman who one time, quick example, I was there and she had a mechanical arm to help her feed herself because she didn't want other people to do that, and she'd be getting food all over her face and her apron, and you might think as I'm describing that she was in distressed or unhappy, or she was smiling the whole time. She understood that this was all a cosmic joke. That's what she taught us, is that we are more than our body, more than our feelings, more than our mind in spiritual psychology. And as she was nearing the end of her life, she did regain a little bit of movement. She could type a paragraph in about an hour, and she was trained to speak with whispers and had that amplified so you can understand her a little bit if you were around her enough. And she decided to leave her body. But before that, she said to me, you know, I'm a speaker who can no longer speak. I'm a writer who can no longer write. But as long as I have a physical body, I can remain a presence of peace and love in this world. She understood who she really was. And so when I feel moments of struggle, or when I feel attached to something, sometimes I'll think about Vivian. And I'll remember, we can be free at any moment. As Carrie said in her song, it's a matter of choice. Thank you for listening. I love you. Oh, thanks. Oh, the prayer thing, yeah, right. I'm not used to doing that when I usually speak. The affirmation, yeah, let's do it all. Okay, let's do it together. I release external attachments and let my outer world be a reflection of my inner joy. All right, deep healing breath. Just take a moment to imagine a life of pure freedom and joy, letting go of all attachments, or at least most of them. And just see yourself, visualize yourself walking down the street, walking around your home, waking up in the morning with virtually no worries, because you realize now that the only thing is important is, can I feel joy, enlightenment in this moment? Byron Katie says, forget about enlightenment. Can you just be happy now? Right here and right now. Take a deep breath into inner joy, freedom, love. Knowing that in this feeling, everything in my physical world, my health, my relationships, my prosperity, all take care of themselves. There's nothing else I need to do. And so with that, we completely and totally release this prayer, knowing it's done, in trust and joy and celebration. And together we say, and so it is.